hair is hot. Look at that hot hair.
You look good.
Dude,
I think they can
I
hear
haven't
us
frosted
now.
my tips since that moment right there.
Is that what it is? Is
Yeah,
it?
that was
That's
the MMVA's, the one that Christina Aguilera came to for the first time.
oh my God, I
Um,
remember that.
my
I
hair was
remember
like
that.
platinum blonde.
Oh my God, I
Man,
remember that. I remember that.
I,
What a
I
building
can't
that
remember
was,
the
right?
year, but yeah,
What a building that was. Look at
yeah,
that.
man. Like, oh, look at that. Whoa,
Look at
whoa.
that. Hey,
That's the place
Ricky.
right there. That's the
Ricky. Hey,
that's
bud.
Man, George, how are you?
I'm good. Look at I mean, we
Look,
haven't aged a day.
oh man, can you believe it? That shot has got to be at least
I mean,
25. No,
yeah,
no, maybe
well,
24,
no,
23 years old.
well, I mean, I'm looking at your face and I'm guessing that's 2002, 2002,
Okay, so maybe
2003.
23,
Yeah.
22 years ago. Yeah, it's the frosted tip stage of my life.
Oh my
I've only
God.
been there once. Have you ever been there? Did you hit
Never.
frosted tips
Dude,
ever?
I've never even squeezed lemon into my hair. I've never done that. No sun in, none of that
No
stuff.
beer, no lemon. You didn't want to lighten it up. You wanted to go
No.
dark
Yeah.
as you could.
Well, this is
Yeah.
it. My hair's, I'm starting to get lots of grays, but because I wear a pomade that's like the grease from a motorcycle, it keeps a lot of it looking darker. But for the most part, it's crazy. It's crazy because everybody gets old and everybody deals with it. But so much of our youth and our vibrance was captured on camera. So
Yeah, man.
we can
Yeah.
be
Yeah, it
reminded
was.
of it. it's nice to, thanks for joining us on the live, by the way. Ricky's here with myself.
George,
What a pleasure to see you, bro.
I I wish we were in person so I can give you a big hug. I know we very rarely get to see each
Yeah.
other in person. Like maybe a couple months ago, I saw you for like a couple minutes in
Yeah,
Toronto,
right on the street, right on the street.
right
We
on
were
the
both
street.
randomly on the same street.
That's
It's
right.
incredible.
Oh,
I'm
George,
looking up the
miss you, man.
comments here. I miss you too, buddy. I'm looking at the
Miss you.
comments coming in here. Let's make sure we have this, which is great. I
Yeah,
want to
you
go
read
right
all
to
the
comments.
I can't. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read. I'm as blind as a bat these
When did
days.
you start wearing glasses?
There goes my tea. Oh, jeez.
There- Now you're
Um,
drinking tea.
oh man, there goes my tea. I salvaged a little bit of it. I won't take a
I
sip.
love it.
I started wearing glasses in my late 40s because I was suffering from this condition called presbyopia. I don't know. It hits you in your mid 40s. I
Right.
started having the blurry vision, especially when I was reading books. Like I couldn't make the words out because they were all blurry. You haven't run into that problem yet?
Listen, I have made my font on my phone the smallest font it could be on purpose because I
Oh,
refuse to give in. I refuse to give
good
in.
for you. You,
Kylie says we're
you're
frosting your
yeah.
hair tips tomorrow on the show.
Oh, Kylie. Yeah, okay, Kylie.
That's
Um,
amazing.
as long as I get to frost your hair tips tomorrow on the
You could do
show.
that. Is it on camera? Let's see if we can get the comments on screen. Yeah, listen, dude, it's just me and you. There's nobody. It's just the two of us. And
It's just the two of us and Kylie.
and
Thanks,
Kylie. Yeah,
Kylie.
I'm live streaming on the site right now. And let's see, does that comment come up if I put that in? We'll see. So we'll
Which
read some
comment is
comments.
that?
This is the one from Kylie, which is great.
Oh,
We got
okay, okay.
Kate's popping on
I work with
smiling.
Kylie now.
Yeah.
Kylie does some great work at CHFI over at Rogers for the
Yeah.
social media department, digital department, and Kylie's
Is that Kylie
amazing.
Wynn? Is that Kylie Wynn?
Yeah, you know Kylie, right?
Yeah, Kylie at Humber
Kylie Wynn.
College. Yeah, that's right. Ryan says couple of beauties, older beauties now. I don't, so Rick, I don't really
Oh,
know.
older and wiser, perhaps. I don't know.
I think I'm wiser now than I was back then. And I kind of wish I was not starting now because I think we had the last of the golden era, but
Yeah, yeah.
God, I feel like a little wiser right now. I don't know how much wiser I am. I don't know.
I, I can relate. I'm not making the stupid mistakes I made back when I was in my 20s. That's
Right,
for
right.
sure. Uh,
Amazing.
but I think
So
that happens with all of us in time.
I want to make sure that our comments get on the screen because I think it would be really cool. Um,
Oh, man.
I'll
I
just
just spilled
jab
my
them all. I'll just
chamomile
jag
tea
them
all
on.
over my son's Lego. Man,
Things we never thought we would say
bear,
to each other when we
bear
first
with me.
met. Jerry, who I went to Humber College with in radio, says Rick hasn't aged. So
Jerry, thank you, Jerry. But
part of why we're doing this, Rick, is because when I we bumped into each other in Toronto, we took that photo and I posted it on my Instagram. I know that
Yes.
when I post much music stuff, people respond en masse. I know it's an important thing as far as the connections we have with people and what it means for their life. And I know particularly that if I post a picture of me and Gordownie or me and you, these pictures blow up online.
Yeah.
But what
Ah.
really struck me when I posted that last photo was just how fast and how big the response was and what people were saying. And I think they liked the kind of the friendship and the, even though we don't see each other much, the connection that we formed together. And so it just made sense that we would
people
yeah.
people are so sweet with their comments, and I think it brings them a lot of nostalgia and
Mhm.
memories perhaps of when we were first introduced to, Canada back in the day as younger VJs and working at Much Music, and I think people love to see relationships that blossom
Yeah.
over time, the longevity of friendships and connections. And you and I, we've been so close ever since that first day. I think I was trying to remember where I actually met you for the first time, George, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it could have been a charity soccer match.
So I don't I it's funny. I was thinking about
You
this
have
today too. I don't so there's two moments that we met.
to,
And I can't remember if it was the charity soccer match or we sat behind each other at a Chicago Bulls Raptors game at the Sky Dome in the 500 levels. And
yeah.
I can't remember, but I
Which
feel like
came
it was,
first?
yeah, I feel like it was the soccer match. It was a charity soccer match that Ty Domi was putting on. I was working at
Yes.
the
Y-
Fan,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
had you become the temp at this point?
I think I was probably a year into either being a VJ, so that would have
Yeah,
been '96, or it was the year before where I was just working behind the scenes at Much. But I don't think I would have been. I don't think I would have been invited to that charity
yeah,
soccer match if I was still behind the scenes. I don't think I would have been invited to that basketball game if I was still behind the scenes. So.
yeah.
And I think at the basketball at the Raptors game, were you not at Much Music already, or were you
No, no,
still
no.
with the
No, I
fan,
was
or
still at the Fan, so I hadn't even gone to the
still the
antics.
fan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember you being really nice. So you must have been. Oh my God, I can't. Well, I'm glad we can't remember because it means we have so many
I
other
can't remember.
memories. Yeah,
I
over
do
time.
remember though. Diego Fuentes was at that game too, was he not?
He
Our
was, and
buddy
that was,
from yeah,
and that was our connection because he had got the job. He had won the contest, right?
yeah,
That's
and you guys
incredible.
were buddies.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
buddies because he was living with. I went to high school or knew Jeff Merrick and Bob Mackwitz, who I was doing a
Yes.
radio show with at the Fan. It's
One more thing about Diego before we move on. Now,
yeah,
growing up in Hamilton on Strathcona,
yep.
I found this out years later from Diego, but he was living in a street just parallel to my street, and we never
Oh,
we
that's
never knew each other
amazing.
back in the day when we were kids. But yeah,
That's
I don't know how
amazing.
much time he spent on that street, but yeah. Uh,
That's I mean, so you get this gig, and I think a lot of people don't know that when you first won the contest, you actually got pitched after that. You didn't, you it's not like you won the contest and you stayed. And I don't want to focus too much on your
no,
beginnings
no,
because you've done
no,
this, you've talked about this a lot. But I think about sometimes in
a
life
couple times.
all the things that have to happen for a career to work,
Yeah,
for a life to work, all the grace of others,
right.
all the moments. And deep down at its core, a lot of it has to do with your unrelenting desire to have that
Yeah.
job. Right.
Well, it's so true, George. It's perseverance. It's just following your dreams and
Hmm.
keeping at something until you get there. Like back in the day before we met, um, I, I thought I knew everything about music,
Hmm.
and I wanted to know everything I could about music. And I'm talking like in the late '70s, early '80s, mid '80s. Like I was a kid, but I just was so. Uh, I wanted to be in that world. I had three older siblings who were into music, parents that were into
Hmm.
music, so I wanted to be into music. So I just kept following the dream of surrounding myself with music at
Yeah.
all times, at all costs. And Much Music, of course, was the gateway for us young Canadians. We're watching these music videos, we're enjoying the music that's being played, all genres, really, all
Hmm.
genres. So I just knew once I got my foot in the door at Much back in '94 after winning that contest, the Temp contest, I just wasn't gonna give up until I stayed in that. First of all, I wanted to stay in the building. I didn't know what I
Yeah,
wanted to do at first.
right,
I
right.
loved what Steve Anthony and Erica did, and Christopher and Michael and all the ones that came before, the amazing VJs that came before us. But
Yeah.
I just stuck at it and kept going and kept in their faces until finally one day Denise Donlin, the amazing boss that we had back in the day, gave me a chance, gave me a shot,
I
and
think Denise gave me, so it's funny, John Marshall was the host of the New Music, or not, he's the producer of the New Music, and
producer, yeah, yeah,
Byron was stepping down, and I got a
yeah,
call from Steve Waxman at Warner Music, who I really liked, and Steve said to me, "Hey, do you want to work at Much Music?" In the back of my head, I thought,
ah,
I'm like, I don't know what I would do. I don't play. It's not like, I don't know. And I said, yeah, I could be. I could be. He said it's for the New Music, and I said, oh, that's what I, watched on Channel 79 before City
yeah,
TV moved to
yeah.
Channel 57, and that's where I watched a lot of punk interviews with the Clash and Iggy Pop, Jeannie Becker, JD, all that.
Oh
And
yeah,
Daniel
oh yeah,
Richler was my guy, right? I loved
yeah,
Daniel Richler on the New Music, and so
yeah,
I went to
yeah,
meet with
Daniel.
John. I remember being sick and not feeling 100%. I had a cough, and we met in a pub across the street from Much, and we
I
didn't
know
play.
that pub. I
You
think
know
I know
that
that
pub?
pub.
I think when Much Music was run, was it John Martin ran it? He ran it from that pub for a long
From
time.
that pub, yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I left that meeting thinking that was fine, but I'm not going to get this gig. And then one day I was doing the radio show at the Edge, and this guy was hanging around for hours watching me work with the audience, and the kids were coming in because we were a storefront as well at the Edge. And he, at the
yeah,
end of the night, he
yeah.
said, I'm David Kynes. So do you want to work here or what? And I didn't even think that job was still on the table. I didn't even know.
Um,
So I meant to meet with him and Denise, and they told me they're going to wait a couple of weeks to make a decision. And then they called me
all right.
4 hours later, 3 hours later, and said, do you want the job? And I thought, yeah, why not, man?
You,
Like,
why
why
not? I'll
not?
give it
Yeah.
a shot. But
But when I,
George, you come
but
from a long line of iconic new music hosts. Like that show started before MTV started in the
yeah,
US.
that's right.
That
That's right.
music show was the granddaddy of them all.
It's
JD
true.
Roberts, Jeannie Becker, then you said Daniel
It's true.
Richler, Avi Lewis, Byron Wong. But you, man, you took that show and you made that show your own. And the new music, we have the new music to thank for much music in this
We
country.
do. We do. Holy
Yeah.
moly, Rick the Temp says the library 88. I love that. I love that comment because people still react that way. Well, thanks. When I have worked, I've been lucky enough, you and I both worked for a long time in this career. We've had very
Yeah,
privileged careers. We've both had high profile hirings, high profile losing our jobs. It's been a trip, right?
it's
And
been a trip. Yeah,
one of the things that remains is how the people who connect to Much Music, even though they all liked different things about it, all seem to connect to it
right.
in the same way. And the reason that
Yeah,
comment comes up is when they see your face, and for some, when they see me, it's a different vibe. When I got to Much, this is something I tell everybody who will listen.
yeah.
I'm not even sure if I've ever said this to your face directly, but I feel this
I'm
way.
not sure. I'm not sure
You
what you're
know,
about to say, but
I've worked at a lot of places in my career where there's somebody else there who has a very big profile, and I stroll in with my don't give up attitude. I have my own swagger. I don't bring ego to the party, but I bring my own expectations, and I put a burden of proof on me and everybody around me that we're here to do a good job for the audience, but we're here to
yeah,
win. I go into places, and a
yeah.
lot of times hosts who are there who have a little bit who predate me, they really put up all kinds of roadblocks and they make it very difficult. And there are
Oh,
two places where that never happened. One was when, by the way, nobody could ever take anything away from Peter Mansbridge. When I got to CBC, Peter embraced me, and Rick Mercer embraced me, and it really helped. But when I got to Much Music, nobody could have been kinder and sweeter and more supportive to me than you.
oh.
And you didn't have
Well,
to do that. And a lot of hosts don't do that the way you did.
oh, man, you know what? We're all on the same team, and
Mhm.
it wasn't a competition for me. It never
Yeah.
is in that light of things. Like when I play sports and when I'm an athlete, then it's competitive. But
Or when you're
we're
on
on
the
the same
trader.
team. Yeah, or when I'm on the traders, yeah, that's right. Then it's all about competition, fierce
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah,
George, you were joining our team. You were joining our family.
yeah.
What am I? Why am I going to put roadblocks up? Because that's not good for anyone on the team, including me. I want this team to win at all costs every day. You know,
Yeah,
every day we're doing live television. So no, and plus that's not my approach in life. My approach in
yeah,
life is to make people feel at home and take
yeah.
them in and encourage them to do amazing things, not the other way around.
And,
Um, but
well,
but
I
I know what you're
noticed it,
talking
man.
about because when I got to Much in those early days, yeah, it was a little like, okay, who's this new kid on the block coming around winning a contest, thinks he could
Yeah,
just come on in here and do his
yeah.
thing. But
Totally.
yeah, yeah,
I remember when I got there, so I got the job at Much, and I was amazed at how right away they left me alone. So at night, there was nobody there. So I went out and I shot
yeah,
an
yeah,
interview with the camera operator, and I don't even think I had a pass. They just put me in there and said, watch the footage back. So the only two people in the building, and this was maybe 11 o'clock at night, there, and they wanted me in at night so nobody could see me because we hadn't announced that I had been hired yet. The the
right,
only
yeah.
other person that was in there was Master T. And I
Was Master
remember
T.
wandering around, I had that look on my face, that where's that picture again? That beard, that kind of thing. And I was wearing my necklace, which I
Yeah,
cut from at a hardware store, Portuguese hardware store in Toronto. That was my necklace, right? And I just pulled a piece of chain, clipped it, bought a carabiner.
love it.
And so Tony was just kind of like looking at me. He told me later that he was just like, he could tell that I wasn't just some dude walking around, but
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
trying to figure out what it was. Like, who is this guy?
Why is this
But
guy here? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And Tony was good to me, man. They were all really good to me. He says he wasn't, but actually, what I
Hmm.
liked about Master T was he didn't pretend. And when I got that job, John Marshall, who was the producer of the new music, told me right off the bat. He said, "Keep your head down. Don't try to make too many. Like, don't go out of your way to be overly ingratiating. Just be you.
Yeah,
People will come to
yeah,
you if they like you."
yeah,
And I did that, and it's some of the best advice I ever got in my life. But
yeah,
you're right, though. Much felt like a bit of a family. It's one of the places where the producers and the hosts, the people working, putting our names on the screen, and the people cutting, everybody was in it kind of for the same reason. I mean, look, it's a place, so
yeah.
obviously nothing's perfect, and we're remembering it in a beautiful way. But for the most part, people
That
really passionate.
That's all I remember. That, well, not all, but those are the beautiful moments that I remember. Everyone was a music lover. Everyone was a fan of music. Everyone was there for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
reason. And back in the
yeah,
day, as you remember, well, Much Music was all about the music. And
yeah,
what better place to be if you're a music fan than a music service that's pumping out music
yeah.
24/7, because that's what we did. I never stuck around till 11 p.m. I guess I always thought I needed to get to bed early. but
You
I'm
were
sure.
always much healthier than I was, for sure. Because back then I had only quit drinking. When I got to Much, I'd only quit drinking like 5 years earlier. So I was still
Right.
tied.
Right.
I didn't stop going to raves until like 3 years ago. You know,
Well,
I
you,
still go,
you
but
were the
not as much.
vampire.
Yeah.
You were the station's vampire, George. You stayed up around the clock, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that. And I needed sleep, man. I still need 8 hours at least to this day.
Yeah. Oh my God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was, I was, I was so excited to be there. And unlike, I had a
Yeah,
different
same.
story than you in this thing, that I didn't have cable, so I never watched much music. And what happened was, if somebody on the street had cable, when Much launched, there was the free weekends, and so we'd go to the house and
Yeah,
we would
yeah,
watch the free weekends,
yeah,
and that's where
yeah.
I saw Much, and of course I was in love with Teresa Roncon and the
Of
Power
course.
30 and the Power Hour, all that
Oh,
stuff. So
oh,
when I got offered the job to host the new music, well, the first thing Denise asked me was, "So why do you want to work here?" And I said to her, I don't know that I do." That was my answer to her question. Like,
wow.
I'm not sure that I want to. Right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Y-
didn't remember it until she wrote about it in her book, and it's like, right, I did say that. What a jackass I was. Um, and I'm so grateful that
Playing
she
hard to get, eh,
yeah,
George?
I didn't mean to. I love being at the edge because, as you know, like you said, it's
Yeah,
about music, right? And my love of
yeah.
music was so, and remains, it's the one thing that's never been extinguished. So they
No.
offered me the new music, and I said, on one condition. So after this, I'm like, one condition. They said, what the fuck? What condition? I said,
What's
you
the
got to let
condition?
me host loud. They didn't have a host at the time.
Ah,
And because I love the Power Hour and the Power 30, the Pepsi Power Hour, I needed
yeah,
to
yeah,
host
yeah.
loud. And they said, yeah. no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Like, go for it. I went, what? So all of a sudden I got no, and then everything really changed. Hold on, I got a
Yeah.
question for you.
Yeah.
This is from Donna. This is going to be kind of all over the place because that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about the way Rick and I came up on television is that there was no teleprompter. It was just live, and it was crazy. We were so
Lights
early.
on, cameras on, start
Totally,
performing or start doing your
totally,
thing. Yeah.
totally. All right. So here's the note that a comment from Donna. It said, "Great that you're doing this. I have a question for Temp. I remember you won the contest, and it seemed like shortly after you were in Steady Brook for Snow Job. I'm from Corner Brook.
Oh, Corner Brook. Yeah. Yeah. Corner
Yeah.
Brook. Yeah.
So was that your first real big assignment for Much Music?
No, that's Donna asking that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Donna Saunders.
Donna, no, the first, I was there soon after. My first big assignment was 6 months into my job.
Yeah.
It was probably the late summer, early fall of '96. I went to New Zealand with Denise Donlin, our boss at the
Yeah.
time, and probably one of the most interesting camera people that you'll ever meet, David Hurlbut. And
Dave
these
is the guy.
two,
He went on my first trip with me.
he went on your first trip too. But
Yeah.
these are two perfectionists when it
Yeah.
comes to TV. Everything had to be right, and they're veterans in
Yeah.
in their games. So I'm here. It's 6 months into my job as a Much Music VJ, and I get to go to New Zealand. I think the trip was to go see the Fugees. Alanis Morissette was obviously performing there as well. Crowded House. I got to chat with Crowded House, a band that I had idolized and grown up listening to. But then soon after that, I think was the snow job, the
Yeah.
snow job in
Yeah.
Corner Brook, Newfoundland, at Marble Mountain, and that's where I learned to snowboard. That's where I fell in love with snowboarding
Did you
at
become
Corner
good?
Brook.
Are you good at it?
Did I become good? No, I'm still not good at
Yeah.
all, but
When I got the
but I
job at
still like to
Much,
do it.
I was excited because I thought I would get to go to Fort Lauderdale and they'd send me to, but
Yeah,
they kept sending you and Rachel down and they kept sending me up to the cold spots. So I would go do flake and bake. So you would do the bake and I would get the flake. And I'm like, but
the
I
flake.
want the bake.
The flake
It
and
was
bake.
so
I
funny.
think I think the original name of that one was Sand Job because they had Snow Job, and
Right, right,
then and
right,
then they called that Sand
right.
Job. But then I think you're right, Flake and Bake. They started changing out the names. But see, those were I loved every assignment. I love being in the studio. I love when those windows opened up. I
Yeah,
loved interviewing someone. But I love the assignments where
yeah,
we got to go out to the smaller communities and meet the people that were actually. But I was in their shoes one day. I was
yeah.
a fan watching Much Music, singing along to all the music videos that I was watching. But that's what I loved about. I just loved getting out there and being a part of those communities that were watching us on a daily basis. So whether it
When
was
you
Corner Brook, Newfoundland, or Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan,
right,
anywhere across Canada, because all of Canada was watching. Like all young Canadians, they were putting on Much Music,
yeah,
as
yeah,
I did when I was a young
yeah.
Canadian. So to get out there and meet, because most of them never got a chance to come down to 299 Queen Street West.
Right, right.
You know,
Yeah.
I would say 98% of them were never got a chance. So when we got to go out there to where the people were, where the Much Music viewers were, oh, what a special time that was.
I just did a thing in LA at the Largo with Mae Martin, who's having this amazing career right now, and well deserved, and Lisa Gilroy, two really funny, really talented comedic actors, but actors in general. And I
Yeah,
did a surprise appearance for them, which is fun to do. But what Mae said before they knew I was there was talking about going down to Queen and John and
man.
banging on the
Yeah.
windows and trying to
May
get into it, right? Which is pretty incredible. Pretty incredible just what
May
that building.
Can I get a quick story about May?
Yeah,
She had come in. I was back at 299,
yeah,
promoting the doc that we went
right,
across the country for like a year and a
right.
half ago, and we were on the social.
Yeah,
Uh, Sean Menard, the director of the movie, and
yeah,
I were on the social.
yeah,
But
yeah.
before we made our appearance, May was on, and May couldn't believe that she was at 299 Queen Street West. She showed me a picture of her when she was a young teenager who had
Little.
just come down wanting to see her favorite bands,
Well, I'll tell
and
you,
now
they still feel like it's a crucial foundational moment for them, like inspiration. of that building and
Right,
what it
right.
taught young kids they could
That's
be.
how I feel too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What was it like?
I
What
feel
was it
the same
like for
way.
you to go? What was it like for you to go back in the building?
Oh, George, I had been okay. So the day I left would have been August of 2005. I was
Yeah,
switching jobs, and I hadn't gone back to Much Music. I didn't really think I was wanted back at Much Music
yeah,
because on my way out, I was accompanied by a security guard and my box of goodies of my possessions.
yeah.
So that's the true story. That's how it happened. I was ushered out of there on my
I'll
last
tell you.
day.
I'll tell you, Rick. I remember it because we both have the last day. Your last day was my last day. I had quit and I did Much News during your last Much on Demand. I
Yeah,
remember on Fridays you do the 8:30 there would be the early and there would be a late one on Friday.
Combat
We
Zone after that before Electric Circus. Yeah.
so our your last broadcast on Much Music was my last broadcast on Much Music. We both walked the same day.
What? No, I don't
Yeah,
remember that. Oh, how can I
100%.
not remember that?
No, listen, I to be honest with you, and this is no bullshit, no bullshit. I went into the day knowing it was my last day,
Yeah.
but I was so immersed in your last day that when I finished my last Much News hit, and I said, that's it, back to and I went back and I was watching you and I thought, "Oh god, we're both done now." It was the end of
I
an era. We
cried. I cried.
no,
Did you cry?
no,
I
I
shed a
think I
tear.
was starting to get a little bit. I think I was a little.
You were ready to go.
I was
Yeah.
ready to. I didn't want to go. I didn't want. They offered me an extension, but I didn't want to. Do you know the story about how I got in so much trouble for trying to get you a different job?
I don't know the whole story, but I remember it was for a competing network at the time.
Right.
It still is.
So before your last day, um, I
Love you,
was. I
man. I
think it
love
was.
you. I love you for that. I love you
It
for
was.
many reasons.
It was a year before. It was a year before we both left. I had been offered a job at CBC that I turned down, and I know that people were sniffing around you. And I think you and I both we are blessed and suffer from the same thing, which is loyalty. And
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
Much Music mattered a lot to us. So I get offered this job at CBC. I turn it down. And then I get offered another job, and it was to be on Canadian Idol. And so I get offered this job to now, depending on who you believe, I remember being asked if I would host Canadian Idol, but very quickly in their meeting with me, they realized, I don't know, we think you should be the judge, like the bad guy judge, right? So they wanted me at first to, this is what I was told.
the
I had a
big,
meeting at the
the Simon
boss's
Cowell.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like,
That's
we want you to host this show, but if you want to be a judge, we think you be a judge. And I remember this so clearly. I remember looking at them and saying, "Thank you, but you should hire Rick. Rick's the because I remember saying Rick's the real Canadian Idol. Rick's the greatest, like he's the greatest." And I remember
oh.
the head of CTV at the time. She looked at me. She's just like, "Did you just are you turning the job down by giving somebody else the job?" And I said, because I didn't realize what I had done. And I said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you should give the job to Rick." Now, I knew that there were new bosses in place at Much, and I knew that I didn't believe in them and where they were going. And I knew that they didn't really get the power of what Much Music was. So I thought I wanted to protect you because I'm fiercely loyal towards you. But also, I thought
You are,
you
man.
should
Yeah.
have been the host. So anyway, that's the case. And I think you're going to get it, right? I get called into, I think you met with them because I get called into the office from not the head of Much, but from the head of the whole Chum building. And I get called in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What are you
What
talking about?" I didn't even know
are you
what
doing?
I got
That's
to
our
say.
guy. What are you trying to
Yeah.
sell him over here for?
Yeah. I didn't even know. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, about what?" He goes, you pitched Rick for another job at another network. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Rick's the best. We love Rick." He said, "Yeah, we love
Oh.
Rick." I said, "Well, then don't you want Rick to grow?" I got very defensive because, like, don't tell me I can't. Anyway, I remember now, you and I, within a year, we were both gone. We both,
We were. But
because
George,
I went to shoot,
I,
tell
I
me, so go
I
ahead.
do
Yeah.
remember you telling me that story, man. And when you first told me that story, I said, "What other human being is gonna, not allow themselves to move forward, but let their buddy move forward? Like that. That is a that is an honest to goodness, salt of the earth kind of human being right there.
Well,
I
but
think
it
the
to
first time you told me that, and I remember this, I almost shed a tear and broke down. I got so emotional. You did that
yeah,
for me.
dude, I mean,
Um,
I
but that's you. That's
yeah.
you, George. That's what you do on a daily basis for people, and
It's a little
God
bit
love you
me.
for it.
Thank you, man. You know, and I love you too. It's a little bit me, but it's really a lot to do with how I felt about you and still feel about you. And it because I do believe that. Look, I'm a student of the game, right? I'm a student of. I live in this house by myself. I spend most of my life writing, shooting,
Yeah,
making things. Like I'm a student of the broadcast game from the beginning to now.
yeah,
I've
you are.
researched
Yeah, yeah,
and the talent, the thing that you have cannot be taught. There are lots of people who are, I think, even more accomplished or polished broadcasters than me or you
yeah.
will have ever been, right?
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
but the thing
Polished
that
with my name, they don't go hand in hand. Those two.
but
I'm
the
just
thing
me.
that
I just deliver it the real way that I can. Yeah,
well,
the
yeah,
only
and
way that
listen,
I can.
there's a great comment that just came up here from Michelle. I want to add this so you can see it. It said that we could both see through the upcoming bull crap. Like we knew that that was coming there. But the
Ah,
thing that you can
did
do,
we?
because I watched you interview bands that did not want to be interviewed by the guy that they thought was the pop music guy. And I watched how in one question, one and a half questions, you
Oh,
would completely disarm very challenging, difficult people. And I would sit there and I
oh,
wanted to do every interview. I was that guy. But of course, I understand that everybody should do lots of interviews. But whenever you got the interview, I was like, yes, I
oh,
want.
oh,
And I
George. Well,
remember what, like, you could disarm people in a way that I could do it
oh,
with politicians, but I couldn't do it the way you do it with music. I couldn't do it the way you did it. It's a
well,
skill
I think
beyond
George.
belief.
But thank you for that compliment. That's very kind. I think we were learning from each other. I'm still a student of the game. I believe you are as well. We'll always
Hmm.
be students
Hmm.
of this game. We want to learn, but we learned a lot of different traits from our colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did. I took what you were offering. I took what Master T was offering, what Bill was offering, what Sookin Lee was offering,
Yeah.
because I'm a phys ed grad, man. I'm not no TV guy. I won a contest to be there with all of you esteemed music
Yeah.
journalists. I was gonna teach kids how to kick a soccer ball,
Right. And you do
but
now with
but
your
I
own kids.
learned. I did now, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now, but you got to learn. You got to take from other people and combine all that into your delivery. I'm just gonna rewind just a bit here because we were
Yeah.
talking about goodbyes.
Yeah.
I got really emotional with goodbyes. Not mine, like mine too, but when others would leave,
Yeah.
because here I am, a fan of much music, and I'm watching these VJs, and I'm really, really into what they're doing. I still remember the day Sookie and Lee left, and
Yeah.
she did her last VJ throw, and she comes up to me in the commercial break. She goes, "Rick, this is gonna be it for me on Much Music. This is it. I've been here for a long time. I still remember when Sookian started. I was
Yeah.
watching religiously as a kid when things were going on. So Sookian says to me, I think I'm gonna drop my pants and moon the nation." She goes, "Rick, would you do it with me?" Like, and a sign of solidarity. Let's do it together. And I said, I didn't have to think about it. Sookin, whatever you say goes. Let's do this. I remember she did her break. She threw to the video. She turned around.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this or not. It was that night we mooned. It's silly to think about now, but Sookin,
Didn't
what a send off! What a send
Didn't one
off
of you
for
actually
Sookin.
drop your drawers too? Like, I think somebody went all the way and didn't mean to go all the way, and the
I'm
underwear came
pretty
off.
sure Sookian went all the way. That's the way. It's all the way or no way at all for
Yeah.
Sookian Lee.
It
Um,
Sukin was
she
someone
dropped it all.
commented that Sukin was magical, and she really was. So was Tony. So was Namageni. I still think the
Bill Welichka,
Bill's amazing.
the whole list of characters at that time was magical, special.
There's no chemistry that I saw better in my maybe in my entire career than you and Rachel Perry. And
Ah,
Rachel Perry, first of all, I think Rachel Perry, I was such an enormous fan of hers. Rachel Perry's strength and snark was unparalleled. But
yeah,
watching
yeah.
you and Rachel together on TV,
Oh,
that's where I got to be not somebody who worked there. I just got to be a student of the game and
oh,
watching. the two of you together? Because she used to just grind you.
Who didn't grind me? Rachel and the sock,
That's
whoever I was
right.
put with.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah,
I really enjoyed my time with Rachel. Oh,
yeah,
did I ever?
yeah,
Well, she was my first real true co-host, I would say, at Much
yeah,
Music. And then as other shows were developed, I had other co-hosts, and I loved working with people. I loved that. I preferred working with a co-host rather than on my own. I know
yeah,
you wanted to do things on your own, and all respect to that, but I loved doing the stuff with Rachel, whether it was Much Access TV or
yeah,
what, going down to Sand Job in Florida. But I think we both just wanted to have a lot of fun,
yeah.
still talk about music and get the facts out there, but just have fun at the same time. And Rachel was, yeah,
Epic.
some good times with Rachel.
I still remember. So I always had this memory of you and I doing Vegas at one point together. I did not have the memory of this though. Check this clip out here. Wait, this one.
What's your highlight?
I'm warped in.
One sec.
Maybe he's
I want to
doing
get
this
this
stuff here to the kids.
on the screen so everybody can see this because it's pretty hilarious, dude. You and I, when we were at Much doing this one little thing here. Let me find this window and put it up.
It-
It is amazing. I want to drag this all the way to the
I
top so
can't stand
everybody.
listening to my voice all these years later. I don't
Oh, is that
know.
true?
It annoys me. It annoys me, George. Don't play anything
But
embarrassing.
no, this one's actually really funny, man. This one's really funny because it's. I'm gonna
Oh
find this
no.
clip here for you. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so this video is this gonna play?
What's your highlight?
I'm warped in.
Wait.
Maybe he's doing this stuff here to the kids.
Realizing that when they do that to you, it's not a bad thing?
It's a good thing. We're all friends here. We all love each other. This is just a way of saying
Remember
I love
this?
you.
Oh, man.
Right?
I learned a different way, but all right. I loved hanging out with Jurassic 5, checking them out. No Effects, of course, were awesome. Green Day were cool.
MXPX as well, Gob, and the Boss Tones I really liked as well. Now, we should probably, say goodbye. And
Thank
get
you very
down
much.
to what we really came to do, because that wasn't our official job. Our official job is cleaning crew.
Well, sure.
Clean the whole place up. And
We care about the environment.
Since you're a rookie and since you haven't been initiated yet, I see a lot of trash around here, George.
You know what? I'll take this initiation of our junior hockey team any day.
Okay, all that white stuff has to go into that big bin over there, and the chip. What do I look like, a garbage can? Joe, hey, Stroumboulopoulos, get back here, punk!
That
Was
to
that
me, dude, that was
That's
my first Warp
hilarious.
Tour. That was my first Warp Tour,
That was
and you.
warped. That was warped.
Yeah, and
Oh
so you
man.
and I did our first Warp Tour, my first Warp Tour. I had gone as a punter before, but that was my first
Yeah.
time going as a member of Much Music, and it
Oh
was
man.
super fun.
I think that's one of the only times I said Stroumboulopoulos and not George.
That's right. That's
Ooh,
true. And the opening thing was you were trying to become accustomed to the fact that everybody was flipping us off, right? In at Warp Tour and punk rock, it was like, what's this going on?
well, I'd been given it before, but
Yeah,
it's like, I just want everyone to like me. Why are they giving me the middle finger? Uh,
it's the Warp Tour
but
because they love you.
it,
They love you. Somebody
it's a
asked
term
you.
of endearment. It's what they do. Yeah, yeah. That or spit on you, one or the other. I learned that quick.
We
But I'm glad I had you by my side on that Warped
listen.
Tour.
Nothing. The worst I ever felt was when you guys were doing. It was you and Jen Hollett were hosting. Was it Much on Demand? And
Much on demand. Much on demand.
I knew most of the audience didn't know this, but you are a rock fan, right? I knew that, but you weren't really into like the really insane hardcore that I liked. So
No,
the
no,
bit,
no,
the
no.
dare was for you to go see a hardcore show. So you and Jen Hollett,
Truth or Dare Tuesdays. Yeah, Truth or Dare
listen,
Tuesdays. I remember this. Yeah.
and so we told Jamie Jasta, Jamie from Hatebreed, call Rick on stage. What I didn't expect was you to run up on stage and stage dive and miss everybody.
I missed
And
everybody. That was
and
like
when
Pauly Shore in Son-in-Law. Yeah.
when you collapsed on the ground, I thought, "Oh my god, I killed Rick. Oh my god, we killed Rick." And then I've never seen a stage dive like that, dude. You just bounced off the stage
Yeah.
for that show.
I bounced. I guess I thought that's another term of endearment. Like, people not catching me because they like me. They want me to. They want to give me space to land. No,
Eric gets it.
I think I hurt myself that night. Yeah.
Yes, you hit the ground so hard. Eric McCauley says Rick the Temp equals hard AF. That is true.
Oh,
It's so fun. Um,
Maybe a hard head in doing that dare. I don't know.
oh my God, that was so much fun.
That
I
was
got
at the
text.
Opera House, right, George? If I'm not mistaken, the Opera House,
It was at the
Queen
Opera
East.
House. Yeah, it was the Opera
Yeah,
House.
man. One of my
Yeah.
favorite of all time venues. I saw some great bands there. I'm sure you did as well.
Oh my God,
Oh man.
I did. Do you remember the day that you were so nervous on TV you doused yourself in water?
Was I interviewing Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
Well, it was Phoenix, Arizona. It was 105 degrees.
Right, right. But you were also like
Plus, I
you were
was nervous
so into
as
Pearl
all heck.
Jam.
I love Pearl Jam. I do remember that. Was it wrong or bad to do? I don't know. Maybe
Open a
maybe
bottle
now,
of
all these
water
years
and you
later.
just started pouring it all over yourself.
On my way to that interview,
Yeah.
it was behind the backstage of the Memorial Arena in Phoenix.
Hmm.
I love Pearl Jam. You know this. I passed by a couch where Eddie Vedder was sitting, drinking some red wine, as Eddie
Yeah.
Vedder does. And it's like, well, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm talking to Craig Halkett, the producer at Much Music, who went on that trip with me. I go, Craig, Eddie's going to be in on this interview, right? That's Eddie
Yeah.
Vedder right there. Eddie just wanted to stay put on the couch, relaxing,
Yeah.
decompressing before a big show. And I got to interview Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard. But what a special moment that was for me. Like, and you too, you know this. Like, we're fans of music. When they assigned us
Yeah.
our heroes,
Yeah.
it's like, pinch me now, man. This is a surreal moment. So I think the dousing of water was a
Yeah.
combination of me being like, is this really happening? I gotta wake myself up here. It's hot outside. What's going on here? But that was, I remember that. Yeah, Pearl Jam in Phoenix, Arizona.
I think
Ah,
the audience, the people watching who are now and commenting and who watched us then knew just how much we loved music, like how much we really loved the music.
dude, your thumb is still on the pulse of what's going on in music. Mine is way off of the pulse. Like, it's like you've kept track of what's going on. Well, it's
Yeah.
obviously it's your job as well
Yeah.
with Apple Music, but but I haven't come close to being that into it, that passionate about it, like I was when I was a teenager in my or
Right.
early 20s. And I think
Right.
it all
Right.
made sense that I got a chance, an opportunity to work at Much Music because I was very knowledgeable back then. And I think that's what Denise was looking for, obviously.
Yeah.
But you, George, have kept that through the years, and you're probably more knowledgeable now than all these acts. And there's so many more acts to even worry about these days,
Yeah.
thanks to the digital world.
There's
But
so many. There's so
yeah,
many. But listen, there's so as you know, there's so much great music, and it
yeah,
certainly
yeah.
drives me. Also, somebody said that because I don't drink anymore. I must have the most overactive thyroid ever, and it's possibly true because I've been 30 years like nothing, and I am
It's
driven to
amazing, George.
find movies and music and books because I like to explore, right? And I think that this is a way to feed
Yeah,
imagination. And
yeah.
I just made a video I posted
Well,
on this YouTube channel the other day, but my favorite 10 new songs. And there's just some really great stuff that's still being made.
well, movies and music and the zest for life are your new booze. Obviously, you
Yeah.
didn't need that 30
Yeah.
years ago. You said no to that, and you found the beauty in
Yeah.
these other things, which have
I, I
propelled
had, yeah,
you.
I had to throw myself into work. When I quit drinking,
Yeah, yeah.
I was working at the fan and I remember being in like not in good shape. And I got, when like a priest comes and gives you your last rites, I got my blessing at night because they weren't sure I was going to make it. Doctor's like, you need to change
Yeah.
I was partying a lot. And I remember deciding, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to stop. I have no choice. I'm going to die. So I said, I'm going to stop. And I had moved back into my mother's basement. I was living in her basement, listening only to Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains, which is not the CD you
No.
should be. When I ended up telling Alice in Chains that was my Get Clean record, they looked at me stunned. Like, that was your Get Clean
Lane
record? And
Staley's
I
probably
remember
thinking,
saying, like, I'm a
no,
pretty intense
it's
guy.
going to do the opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. But what happened was I was working at the fan, and so I only had a handful of shifts a week, but I started to go in every day, even on my off day. So when I wasn't working, I would go in, I would go into a studio and I would fake a show so that I wouldn't go out and party and so that I wouldn't go out and drink, right? So I basically locked myself in a studio for years. And every day I practiced
Practice, practice.
just so that I wouldn't do that again. And so you're right. I think a big part of my survival tied into work ethic. And because I'm a pretty lazy guy, like I don't
100%.
want to do anything, but I really don't. Like I do shit, but I don't wanna, right? And so in my brain, I just kind of went, oh, forget it, man. And to me, it's always a bit about work. So I got to
Yeah.
Much only a handful of years later, and Tanya or Dan Eisen, Tanya was became the producer of the new music, and Dan Eisen was the producer of Rapid Facts at the time. They
Yeah.
would say,
Yeah.
"Hey, do you want to do this interview?" And I said yes to everything. I said yes to every single interview, no matter the genre, because it kept me alive and
Kept
it
you
kept me
occupied,
clean.
kept you
It just kept
busy,
me
kept
going,
you, yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well,
And so now
you
I
know what?
can't
I'm
shake
glad.
that. Now I can't shake it.
Yeah, you can. Well, I'm glad that was your delivery because you're the best at it.
No, no, thank you, man.
That thirst for more and to learn more, to do more. That's what life is all about.
It is. It is. I want to. There's a couple things I want to explore with you. I want to talk about the emotional part of the job and the stuff that you and I. There was only a handful of people who we would know who can relate to each other on this, because based on the Much Music component to it, of course, which is the nostalgia angle to it. The When you were doing the tour for the movie, the 299 Queen Street West movie, like that's a movie I
Yeah,
didn't want to do, right? I didn't want to do
yeah,
it.
right. You didn't?
I know I said no to it. In fact, worse than no, I just didn't respond to any of the emails. I had no interest in doing it. I did, but I didn't because I
Really?
don't trust anybody to tell the story, right? And finally, David Kynes told me that you were in it, and David Kynes thinks I should do it. And he was the guy that got me the job with Denise, right? David. So I said, okay,
Director of music operations back in the day when you and I were there, Dave Kynes.
that's
He
right. And he
loves
also was,
bringing out his lederhosen from time to time
he would do that,
and
which was
sh
weird. That's
showing
right.
off his lederhosen. Yeah.
I remember him. He told me that he was the editor of the new music too, an editor. So he
Oh
had been
yeah.
around the whole time. So I trusted him. And he said to me, "You should do this movie." So I said, "Fine, I'll do the movie." So I did it, but I didn't watch it. I still haven't seen it, except when you were going across Canada doing all those screening dates.
Yes.
I was never in the same city, so it's not like I avoided it. I just I was never in the city you were in, and that the screening was in. And then one day I decide I know that I'm going to be in Vancouver, and you're there for the
Yes.
Vancouver screening. And
Ah,
I texted the director, Sean. I said, "Hey, I'll show up if you want me to." He said, "We would love it." I said, "Just do me a favor. Don't tell Rick I'm coming.
sure.
Like,
Oh
don't tell
man.
Rick I'm coming because I wanted to surprise you." And
What a surprise that was. What a surprise that was. I
to
was blown
me,
away, George, by
oh,
you being there. Your presence. Oh, do you have a clip? Sorry, are you gonna
no, I
show
don't have a
something?
clip. I got a picture I want to show you
Oh,
because somebody captured
oh,
in the audience, somebody captured this amazing moment of, let me find it here and bring it up.
I just felt that you needed to be there at that show. One of the cities across. I think we did 14
Did you?
dates
Yeah.
across Canada with Sean. Erica did a bunch of them too because Erica was involved with the production of the documentary. But you to be there just made sense. In
Look at the,
Vancouver.
look at
And,
this.
oh,
So this is the
yeah.
moment where I
Oh,
run
great
on stage
shot.
and somebody captures our hug.
When you were introduced by Sean that you were there, I was like, really? He's here? Where is he? Why haven't I seen him yet? I want to catch up with him. And we just saw each other
On
on that
stage.
stage for the first
Yeah.
time.
Well, because I showed up probably with 10 minutes to go in the movie, and I just went.
Okay.
They knew I was coming, so they actually, it's funny, as I showed up, you were standing in the lobby, and I was like, "Oh no." So I said to the security guard, "Hey, listen, I'm I'm supposed to be out. Can you just sneak me in the back?" So he snuck me in the back door. I got
Yeah,
on
yeah,
and I
yeah.
just waited. But that's where I saw a few clips of the movie,
Okay, that's
and I got to tell you, it was strange
yeah,
to see the
it
hallways
was.
again and those
Yes.
clips. It was really,
Oh,
I know I haven't been back in that building until recently. I did I narrated the Montreal Canadiens rebuild documentary, which is on Crave, which is owned by the
yeah.
same company. So there was a press day at Much, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
went back into the building. I don't think I've been in the building in 20 years.
Well, the building must not have looked the same. They've done so many changes to it when you
So
got
many
back there, I'm
changes.
sure.
But
Totally different place.
snuck down though into the sub basement where I used to host Loud, and I
Yes,
got to be,
yes,
and
yes.
that was really, It was
Is the
really good.
library still down there?
The library, and it's the same dude. The library hasn't changed. Same people too. It's incredible,
No.
man. Yeah, the library is incredible. I'm gonna do a
Heather
thing on
Middleton.
that. Pardon me?
Heather Middleton.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Remember
It's
the name
it's
Heather Middleton?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course, of course. The 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 library is the one place that still it has all of our tapes. And I looked at it and I went,
Yeah.
my God, my whole learning, because I'd never been on TV before. I'd hosted one comedy show on local TV before. Not I wasn't meant to be the host, just the host wouldn't come out of their car and they didn't have a host. So they said, you do it. And that's how I became the host of the show. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't done TV before, much music. So I looked at all of my early days are on these shelves. And apparently they're being digitized
Yes.
now. So which is good and
That's
bad
right.
for us. You
Thanks
know?
to Sean Menard, the director of 299 Queen. I'm so glad it's happening. You're right. Could be good or bad. But apparently I was speaking with Sean just a few weeks ago, apparently with fingers crossed,
Mhm.
the documentary will be on Crave soon, is what he was telling me. Because I believe like this is, you know, we all know this was an institution for all of us, not just, you know, as fans growing up
Yeah.
watching this place, for us being there. But this, it's educational. You learn
Yeah.
so much from this documentary. So I'm finally, it's finally coming out, and I'm so glad that Canada and beyond will get a chance to see this wonderful documentary. Are you so glad now that you are part of it?
I
After,
am. I am.
after you met Sean, the director, and
Yep, I am. I'm glad I did it. There's a stamp, as you know. I just put that up.
there's our
Excuse how much
stamp.
like
Look at that
there's a
stamp.
stamp, right?
Yeah,
Which is pretty wild.
look
I'm
at
glad I
that.
did
I
it.
love
Like
that.
my default position is to say no to any project because I don't want to do anything. I said no to the CBC 4 times before I took the gig, and I, which shows that my first
You-
instinct's not always the best when it comes to work. No, I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad it was told from the perspective that it was because it was a fan's perspective. They're from a slightly younger generation, so they caught the tail end of us into
yeah,
the next wave. Um,
right, right.
I still think you and I should make the definitive Much Music documentary. I think we would
Okay.
tell, and
Yeah,
because that was
yeah.
a one from the perspective of the fans. I think we
Sure.
could
Of
tell
Sean.
a
Yeah.
different one, right? A very different kind of experience from
Hmm.
there. But I'm glad I did it. But more than that, I'm glad I went to that event and saw you there. I felt kind of badly because there were so many great legend VJs on stage, and it very quickly became for me about just seeing you. And I wanted because I wanted to watch people react to you the way they used to when I first met you. Right, was that kind of crazy cool excitement. So I'm still this eternal fan of yours, and watching you in that room was amazing.
I feel the same way about you, honest to God. And I know this isn't going to turn into the Sammy Maudlin show on SCTV, but you're the exact same way. I loved watching you after that screening out in the lobby with all the people that were just, you were like a magnet to
Yeah,
people, man. And you've always been that way too. But I think we give each other that same feel, and
yeah, yeah.
I was so glad that you showed up there to surprise us all, not just me, but you surprised everybody there, the other VJs that were on the stage, the people that had come out to see the screening. We were all so happy and excited that you were there that night.
Do you? I don't want to be the guy, like I'm not a nostalgic guy, right? But of course, it's hard not to be with our jobs because our faces, we
Yes.
are reminded and people
Yes.
relate to. So I have a group of people who watch me on the talk show and they relate to me that way. And I have a group of people who relate to me because of Much Music. And I have a smaller group, but a connected group who used to listen to me on the radio before that in Toronto. And then now I have a different one. You have yours, you have you have your different groups. But there's nothing that feels to me the same as when someone says to me, "You guys introduced me to the music that helped change my life."
Yeah.
And to me,
Ah, that's
that's the best thing that anybody. I don't know. What's your relationship with that?
it's George. I feel the exact same. I was watching Much Music back in the day where all these veteran beautiful people, these VJs, were introducing me to all types of music, and I loved that.
Yeah,
And when I got to meet them all these years later, now I'm talking Steve Anthony, I'm talking Erica M, I'm talking Master T, but my eyes opened to all these different genres that I really wasn't listening to. It was because of them at Much Music.
yeah,
So to be able to do that when I was there to a new generation of Much Music viewers, uh, it was incredible. I felt very honored, and I still do to this day when people come up to me saying, you know, because of you, you know, I became a big fan of this band, or because
Yeah.
of you, you know, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gone down that road. Like just stuff. That stuff is incredible to listen to hear, and it's that stuff is so special. It's the reason why. One of the reasons why I was doing what I was doing, you know, because I wanted to like you, we want to share our
Yeah.
knowledge of things, and we want to introduce other people
Yeah.
to what we're privy to, you know, and it's a wonderful feeling, man.
How hard was it for you when you were no longer there?
Well, it was all I knew. It was my only job that I had coming out of university. It was scary leaving, and it was sad leaving. But I knew for me it was time to leave because, and I've told this before, like Much Music in 2005 wasn't the same Much Music that I entered,
Yeah.
you know, in 1994 or prior to 94 when I was a viewer from
Yeah.
84 to 94.
Right.
In 2005, it was just not the same place. So it wasn't hard because I knew I was going somewhere else that was probably going to be, well, to tell you the truth, I stayed longer at my next job than I did at Much Music, and I met another wonderful family. I never thought I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So the hardest part was seeing Much Music change throughout those years from being this very special place that I enjoyed going to each and every day to a place, and I think we all get this at the end of our roads, not the same place, and having to do this when I
Yeah.
don't want to really do that. I'd rather do
Yeah.
what I was doing, you
Yeah.
know. So,
Totally.
so yeah, it was hard because the fear of the unknown scares the crap out of me. You know, not knowing what the next step is. Like I knew, but I just didn't know how it was all going to fit into my life.
Hmm.
But then once I got to ET Canada and met the people that I worked with for 12 seasons, um, uh, you know, I was just so concentrated and focused on that new gig. Sure,
Hmm.
I missed where I had come from, and it was a special place for me. And there'll never be any place like that as I go forward in life with new jobs.
Right.
But just wasn't the same place that I fell
You
in love with.
you you were at Global longer than you were at Much. I was at CBC more than double the amount of time that I was
Really?
at
Yeah,
Much,
is that
you
right?
know.
How many years were you at Much?
Much I did 5 years, and then I did
Ah,
but because they kept repeating the shows that we had made, there's a whole couple 2 other generations that saw me on that channel and saw you on that channel, but we weren't there anymore.
remember that you were already at the at your
I went
show
to
at the CBC.
CBC, I went to Newsworld at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then I did that for a decade, that talk show, and I stayed at CBC to do the radio show for a handful of years after that. So I think all told, I did 14 years at CBC,
Oh
um,
wow,
but
wow, wow.
10 of the TV show, and then I've been at Apple for 4 and a half, 5. How's the radio? You're at CHFI now, right?
I'm at CHFI now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's I'm with the Rogers family and
yeah.
City
I hope it
TV.
goes
It's
better for
like,
you
you
than it
know,
did for me for the hockey night.
that's right, you were at the Rogers family too. You know, I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I'm going to tell you the truth. I feel like I'm at the re-entry level of things, but it's cool. Like I was a freelancer for many years after
Yeah,
ET Canada, and my favorite job of them all was being a dad for my little guys, because in that 6 to 8 months where I got let go, my wife Angie was still working at CTV at the Marilyn Dennis show,
right.
and we had moved to Burlington, and I was Mr. Mom. I was a stay-at-home parent, and I got to be there with little Jack and little Harrison.
Yeah,
And favorite job I've ever had is that right there. But then I got into the whole world of freelance,
yeah,
and you know, taking a gig here, taking a gig there. It could be scary if for those of you who have
yeah,
ever done contract work. You know, you never know where that next paycheck is going to come from.
yeah, yeah,
But but I really enjoyed it. I love the challenge, and those years away from a solid gig. Like now, I got a solid gig again with a great company. I I feel they are.
yeah,
But it's great. It's great being on radio because it reminds me of the live element of Much Music. You know, we get
yeah,
to say I do a great afternoon show with Brooksy, and We do 4 to 7 on CHFI, and we get to be us. We get to talk about what we enjoy, and it reminds me of the early days of MuchMusic. It really does. And now that I'm in with Rogers too, I'm getting to enjoy the TV side of things with breakfast television as
Yeah.
well.
I
I'll
saw you on
fill in
BT, and it
every
was really cool to see you doing that
BT, man.
thing that
Yeah,
you yeah.
yeah. I love being out there doing the live eye.
Yeah.
I love hanging out in the studio as well. But and you know me, my love, my passion, my first love is obviously television. But
Yeah.
I love doing both of those gigs, man. I'm having a great time over at CHFI and Breakfast Television.
Okay, but let's real talk here because I believe you and I know that that is true, and I'm glad. When you were Mr. Momming, um, after I
Yeah.
got booted from hockey night, I was doing the House of Strombo YouTube show, but
Yes.
it was still like, did you ever our identities are so tied to the job and people see you from the job and they ask you, so what are you doing now? Did you at any point get grim? Did you this thing of like, oh my God, is that it?
Well, the only time I may have gotten really emotional is that day that I walked into that room where my superiors were waiting for me and receiving a sucker punch. And then, you get upset, you get a little mad. It's like, really? This is coming out of nowhere. What did I do?
Yeah,
And what can I do to make things work out? Well, there's nothing you can do because we've made our decision.
yeah,
Here are your walking papers. See you later. So I felt the most upset I've ever felt in my whole career on TV, which has been close to 30 years.
yeah.
It's like, that doesn't happen to Rick Campanelli, but I guess on this day it did.
But you never,
We're
so
all
when you
human,
went
man.
home,
We're all losing jobs. We all lose
yeah,
jobs. Everyone goes through
oh
a
yeah, for
firing,
sure, for
not
sure.
renewing your contract type thing. And I
Yeah,
was the next on that list of a long list of human beings being let
yeah,
go from
no,
a
no, for
job.
sure.
But
It's always an
it was
interesting,
tough.
it's an
It
interesting
was
call.
tough.
How long did it take for you to find positivity again?
It helped that I was helping my wife raise our two brand new
Yeah,
boys. That
yeah,
helped because I was focused on them and being a father and a husband to my wife Angie. Um, because to tell you the truth, and you know this, like I've got an older son as well, Noah,
yeah.
who
I
is the
remember now. Yeah.
best. He's a firefighter now.
What?
I left Noah's mom when Noah was 3, and it was really difficult. It was challenging. You were there
Hmm.
around that time. We were still in the same city. You knew what I was going through, and
Hmm.
that was the darkest year of my life. And you know, and I gave my all to being a dad to Noah. I
Yeah,
really did. But
yeah,
when you go through something like that, a separation, then a divorce, it's like it changes everything. It's not the same chemistry. You're not there
yeah,
at all times for your child. So and I made sure, that Jack and Harrison were going to get all of me when I could give them all of me. So being
right.
let go was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah,
It was a blessing in disguise. I was coming to the end of the road, and they saw it, so they made the push. Which
right.
at first I was upset with, but then I realized, oh, I'm so glad this happened because
Yeah.
life is too short. So I got to be there with my boys. I got to change those diapers and prepare those meals, and it's all good. Everything happens for a reason in life.
And how are Noah? How's Noah with the young boys?
Well, Noah was great. Like, listen, when I divorced his mom, Noah was with us, 50-50 type
Yeah,
setup custody with his mom. And so Noah was there when Jack was born. Noah was there when Harrison was born, and they've grown up together. Well, now Noah's 20 and he's got his
yeah.
own life. He's got a girlfriend, he's got a car, he's a firefighter. But those early days, Noah was amazing, amazing with his younger brothers. Yeah, still is.
That yeah, that I remember how difficult that time was for you, and I think a lot of people who loved you broke our heart because we knew that this is a thing you just had to go through, and that nobody could fix it or say anything that would make
No,
it
I
better.
know, man. The darkest days of my life, those were some of the darkest days of my life. There are more dark days that
Yeah,
people will find out about sooner or later because I'm writing about them, and it's therapy for me to write about these times in my life because you know people know one side of us, but there's a whole different side that people don't know,
yeah,
and I think it's time being 55 years old to to let the good people know. They know a lot about me,
Mhm.
but there's still a lot of things that they don't know, and I want to let everyone into my story.
You're writing a memoir?
I am. I
How
am.
far along are you?
It's a long process. So
Yeah.
let's tell you. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's a long process, and I'm getting a lot of great help from a former colleague of mine at ET Canada, my buddy John. So we started this whole project, George, uh, in the spring of 2024,
Yeah.
and it's a long road ahead. I'm hoping it's going to be out in 2026,
So
but I want to get it right because this
yeah.
is my only shot. I'm going to write one book, tell my story, and this is going to be it.
You're into it then. You're in that
Oh,
process
it's
right now. This is
I'm
my
putting a
favorite
lot of
comment.
hours and yeah, yeah.
Holy shit, you're 55, says Mary Jane.
Yeah. Well, you're younger than me, right? We're around the
Yeah,
same.
I'm 52. I'm 52.
52. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
52.
I'm
Yeah.
52. But still, I mean, after 50, it's kind of all the same. You know? I remember I
I
remember I
feel
thought,
85 inside, to tell you the truth, but thanks
do
for that
you
compliment.
you
I'm
feel
slowing right
85
down,
is
that's for sure. I'm
you
slowing right
know,
down. George, I just got back from a Western tour. We did
yeah,
this 90s dance mix tour. We did
yeah,
8 cities in Western Canada. And I don't know if you remember doing these, excruciatingly long trips, road trips, flights, after parties.
yeah,
Uh, And I did it all in the last 10 days in 8 cities. We went to everywhere from Grand Prairie to
yeah,
Abbotsford and Moose
yeah.
Jaw and Saskatoon. But it was a ton of fun. But I am slowing right down.
Well,
Slowing right
dude,
down.
I mean, you and I have put a lot of kilometers on our enjoying life feet, you know? So it's
Yeah.
natural
Yeah,
that
we
on these
have.
tires, the tread's going to be a little, but Liz, I want to play this because I want to make sure this works because this to me is, we can't tell the whole story about it, but we can certainly tell some of the story about it. Let me find this video here for you um, and play
And
it.
as you're finding it,
Yep.
I just want to say, going back to living life, it's like my dad had always said, and he still says to this day, life life is short and we only live once. But if
Yeah.
we do it the right way, the way we want to do it, once is enough. Do what you got to do. Do what you love,
Yeah.
and one trip around is should be sufficient. So that's why you got to go after your dreams and live life. And I think I know the clip you're about to bring up. Would that have anything to do with Sin City?
Yeah, and also I don't even remember all of this stuff in it, but hold on. I want to see if this
I
word.
don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, here we go. This was your idea, by the way, right?
it was.
Taking a road trip from LA to Las Vegas.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was there's no audio on it, but that's actually probably okay. Is that I was in Vegas, I was in LA on my own. I was doing a bunch of meetings down there, and
Yeah.
you and Alex Liu had come down to Vegas to do some interview, like Ashanti or something that got canceled.
Jesse McCarthy or
Was it? Yeah,
someone. Yeah.
yeah, and it got canceled. So when it got canceled, um, I was there and I had rented this car that you see, and I just said, "You want to go to Vegas?" And I knew that you and I had been in trouble in casinos before. We were in Thunder Bay. None of us would leave the casino. You and I have made a lot of bad choices in our lives, and and
Yes.
so what you're
Too
seeing here is
many for
Rick.
me.
Yes, well, so you see this picture here. So Rick and I want to hit pause here for a second. So Rick and
Oh,
I
that's our goodbye. That's our
Yes.
goodbye, right?
Well, kind of. We drove to it should be, but what happened was we drove to Vegas and we started to film a making of Loud and or sorry, the punk show of you and I going to Vegas. We threw the commercial as we drove into Vegas and we were gonna take people through Vegas. Out of the commercial break, it's you and me standing on the walkway at 7 o'clock in
Yeah.
the morning between the MGM Grand and New York, and we had both
We lost all our money.
we lost
Yeah.
all of our money and money we didn't
More or
have.
less.
You had a
Our per
glass of
diem.
like, yeah, you had a glass of booze out there, and I was just like, oh, and I'm trembling, and you're trembling. And I remember having to call you and
Oh.
tell you that punk show's airing tonight. Do not let your family watch this episode. He's like, "Do not
You did.
tonight, take your family out. You're not watching Much
Take
Music tonight
take
because
take
you're
them
gonna get in a
away.
lot
Yeah.
of
What's your
shit."
highlight?
I'm warped in. Maybe he's doing this stuff here to the kids.
Realizing that when they do that to you, it's not a bad thing.
It's a good thing. We're all friends
Well,
here.
that's amazing, right? So
Oh, that's Hatebreed. Is that the
no,
Hatebreed
yeah,
show? Yeah,
yeah. So
George.
but this one,
George,
man,
you put me in some very interesting situations on television, and that was the beauty of Much Music too.
yeah,
Like it was real.
it was
It was
so real.
reality television as
It
they
was
were
so real.
creating it still back in the day.
It was so real.
Uh,
Yeah, we
but
that's the
I was
night,
gonna
by the way.
say,
Yep. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, no, go.
I was gonna say, and this is gonna take it down us into a somber area because
Yep.
I want you to finish what you were gonna say, but reality television. I still remember, and I wanted to bring this up because you saved me one day. 9/11 had
Yep.
just occurred, and I was scheduled to be on air, and you were on air because you were, I think you were doing news at the time or
Yep.
whatever you were doing. I had to pull myself away from that situation because I couldn't be me on live television because of this horrific situation that was going on in New York. And I remember you had stepped up and taken over, and I don't know, you were, I was in awe of how you could handle yourself after this horrific attack on these world trade centers. And I had to get out of there, and I had to go home, and I was so
Hmm.
emotional. I just couldn't do it, but you stepped up, man. You stayed on air that whole afternoon,
Yeah.
letting the Much Music viewers know what was going on in your words and your perspective. And man, I'll never forget that, the way you
And that
stood up and took over.
I didn't. I
You're
was driving into work. I rode my motorcycle into work when the first plane hit the tower, so I didn't know. And I had my, I was driving this beat up old bike. So I get there, I get off the bike, and I'm walking towards the studio. You know, there's like TVs everywhere hanging on the ceilings,
yeah,
right in the walls. My friend Jim Richards calls me from CFRB. He's like my brother, as you know. Jim and Bob, my life is so much better because of those two guys, Makowitz and Richards.
man, yeah,
Richards called me and said
yeah,
a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. I said, "Oh my God." And I remember saying to him, "Well, somebody's going to get fired." I thought that was an air traffic control thing. And he goes, "No, wait a minute." And I'm looking at it as the second plane goes in. And I said, "I got to go,
yeah.
man." And I just walked in, and I wasn't supposed to be on the air for hours. I was doing the news.
Right,
And
right. You were preparing for a later shift, I
yeah, for
believe.
later shift.
Yeah,
And we all got pulled in, and I remember them saying, "Go." And I went, "Okay." And that was it. But that night we did a special where we had a therapist on and we talked about what these kinds
yes,
of
yes,
traumatic events would be like for a kid watching it. And I remember in that moment thinking, even young and new into my career, that no place would let us do it the way we did it. Tor says, I
yeah,
found out about 9/11 from George on. Yeah, because I was
yeah,
broadcasting. And I remember the first video we played was one by you two. And I
yeah,
remember and I'd said to the camera, and Sheila Sullivan was in charge at the time, and she was amazing for this. I said, she's like, "What are you going to say?" And I said, "I'm going to tell them to turn off Much Music and go watch the news and then come back when they're ready to talk about it." And she said, "Go for it." And so
yeah,
that's all I did.
yeah. Amazing.
Right. And the whole building came together in a way. I remember we got like positive write ups. It was one of those things where Much showed why it was more than just a kids station. Is that
Yeah,
everybody who worked there
yeah.
wanted to, we actually cared a lot about the audience. That was a big day. I totally forgot
That
about
was a
all
big
the
day.
details of that.
That was a big day. I remember going home because I just couldn't compose myself, and you did it
Yeah.
perfectly. But I remember watching the coverage, and you were speaking how we helped kids.
Yeah.
You helped me.
Uh-huh.
You and whoever else was on helped me because I just couldn't deal with what was going on. That
We have
really
to,
affected me. But
but the reason why it affected you is one of the reasons why you're the best at what you do is because you don't pretend, right? So you have this kind of heart to you, this rawness that that is that's why you're so good at what you do is because you are so connected to it. I remember later that day, I had been there all day. We were still on the air and we were in a bunch of videos. And
yeah,
Suki and Lee and I were sitting, like I was sitting at my desk on the main environment area, just upstairs. And Suki was beside me, and
yeah,
she comes and sits right beside me, and we just started Googling, what is the blast radius if some, like, what happens if because we didn't know pre-internet, really, no social media. We didn't know. Fuck, it was better without social media. But we we had no idea what was going on.
What was going on? Nothing like this had ever happened before. We had never witnessed anything this horrific, really. There's
Yeah,
been a lot of horrific
in the world, yes, but
things.
yeah, New York, we hadn't seen that, and like for sure, you're right. And I remember when that night was done, walking home, and I was because I live down the road. I still live down the road from Much Music, and I was dating this woman, and I lived with her, and she worked in news at CBC, so she
Mm,
was in news mode, and I
mm.
was doing what I was doing for Much Music, and we were interviewing everybody about it. Of course, it felt like for 3 months, all you could talk about with a band was Much Music, was about 9/11, and I remember at the end of that week, Jon Stewart, or 2 weeks, Jon Stewart went on the air. He had returned to the Daily Show, and her and
Yeah.
I were sitting on the couch, and that 2 weeks later, whenever that was, that's when we both started to cry. Like
Wow.
that's
That's
when
yeah.
I just felt like, oh God, what am I feeling here? Why? And it's like because I bottled it all up. I bottled it all up, and I had,
You did
I
it
had.
perfectly too. The day of, yeah.
Well, thanks, man. It was
We the night before, I remember being in LA. We had brought down some winners for a Madonna concert. We had seen
yeah,
Madonna in LA, and then I think I was flying back either red eye or whatever it was. And they have social media. It's the best because anyone can reach out to us instantly and tell us what was going on or how they were feeling. So I
mhm.
remember the winners of that contest got stuck in LA because they had grounded all the planes,
Right, right,
and
right.
the winners of that contest didn't know what was going on, so they had to stay in LA for an extra 4 or 5 days. I didn't even know this, but the gentleman who had won the contest reached out to me through DM on
Yeah,
Instagram or
yeah.
whatever it was, and he let me know that that had happened, and
That's
that was
incredible.
just it was a crazy time. But I commend you, man, for keeping it together the way you did so professionally, because I was the complete opposite that day when I had to
No,
go
man.
live, and
No, no, no.
I was I'm the first to admit it.
Well,
I
we
you
both.
know
Maybe that's one reason why I think Much was so epic, was because not just you and me, but everybody who was on the air there, we could all fill in the blank for somebody else. And
yeah,
I think that there were things that you could do and still could do I can't do. There's things I could do you couldn't do. Rachel could
yeah,
do things,
yeah.
Tony Namageni, and Sook, and Ed the
It was a
Sock, of
great
course.
team. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
And
team.
so we were able to fill in, yeah, we were able to fill in each other's blanks. I want to talk to you for 1,000 hours. I'm not going to, because I think we should do this again. I think we should
Well,
do this
so
again.
wait, is it time to go already?
No,
But
no, 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 no. But I just wanted to, in case you
we
were
got
in
to
the
do
back
this
of
in
your head.
person next time.
Yeah, we should do that. We should
Let's
totally
do
do
this
that.
in person. Yeah,
I think that
it's
would
just an
be,
idea. I know you're in Los Angeles. I'm way up here, but we'll make it work.
I think we will. We'll do it. But I don't want to wrap up yet because there's still so many things I
Yeah,
want to talk to you
yeah,
about. You were angry when the ET Canada thing left, but you quickly found something in raising the kids, right? When did you
yeah.
feel like you did you when did you really re-embrace the Much Music? Because I know that
Uh,
everybody calls you the Temp, and there were times when you were fine with it, and I know there were times when you hated it.
I did. I
So,
don't remember hating it,
well, you
but
were just kind of like, "Were they going to keep holding my the Temp forever?" Maybe
well,
it's like
let me
that
tell you
when
this:
you're a
my
couple.
parents were so proud and happy that I started using Campanelli, and we dropped the temp. I remember that day. I think it was like 4 or 5 years into me being a VJ, and my parents, they called me up. They said, "I saw Campanelli on the screen today." I go, "Yeah, mom and dad, I'm using Campanelli now." They were so
Oh,
happy and proud. Listen, man, that handle, that moniker, I love it.
yeah,
Even on this Western tour, I was giving people the right, because it was a '90s tour.
yeah,
I was answering to Rick the Temp that night. Let's just say,
amazing, amazing,
hey, there are worse handles
amazing.
out there.
Yeah, there definitely
Rick the
are, for
Temp.
sure. And I think that you have shown that if, and in a way, I didn't think this at the time, but obviously over the years, I've thought a lot about this, that our Much Music time. And I went, maybe it's the most Buddhist thing to be the Temp, a daily reminder that of the impermanence of life,
Yeah, that's
and that
so true.
everything is temporary. So in a way, you
Temporary.
are so far
Yeah.
ahead of all of us,
Yes.
you know?
So true that what you just said there. Everything is temporary. You got to. enjoy it, embrace it while you can, because nothing's gonna last forever. And
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
our time at Much Music, yeah.
yeah.
On to the next, right?
Listen, I feel like I know this sounds stupid, and it sounds like I am rewriting history, but I'm not. And because I believe it, and I wouldn't lie to you. And I'm pretty straightforward. I'll tell you what I really think. But
Oh
I
yeah, you will.
feel
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just kind of getting started now. There's things that I couldn't do until I hit my early 50s. And now that the
Wow.
world's so
Yeah.
divided in a different way and media is so divided, I feel like this is the
Oh,
time for what it's
this
why
is
I'm
your time.
yeah,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
what
This is
but
your
for
time. You
me
got
too.
so many important things to say to us, and
Well, no,
this is your
it's
time
like
to shine.
it's
You've
like
been
it's like
shining for years, George, but this is another extension of you,
but
and you shining.
but thank you. But you too, bro, because we're grown-ups, right? So Mako and I were doing these live streams, we'll do more. And I don't want to work. I like my Apple gig. I don't want to work for anybody else. I have no interest in working for people. I want to work with people. And I love the
Yeah,
fact that, I remember when we used to like my crew at CBC on the talk show, we had to push really hard to get CBC to understand the value of putting our videos on the web. Like we were one of the
yeah.
first. Who's that?
I just sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, no, who's that?
Figaro wanted to crash the party here. This is Figaro,
Dude,
Figgy.
are you feeding that cat other cats? Like that thing is enormous.
Well, he's always taking the food away from his little sister Sophia
Really?
because she's a
Oh,
tiny
amazing.
little runt, and this guy's, you're right. He's like, this is a dog here.
Oh, I love it. That's a
But
beautiful cat.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You were
No, 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 it's fine. So the idea that on this YouTube channel, and I was at NAMM and I met with Rick Beato, who's one of the great music YouTuber, and he likes the stuff that he knows what we did at Much Music, and he likes what we do, and I
yeah,
feel like now is the time for people
yeah,
who like we're grown-ups. We're grown-ups, and when
yeah.
think of the serious shit we were talking about on TV when we were 25, dude, and
I
how
was never talking about serious shit on TV, was I?
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I'm sure you did. I was just introducing people to Green Day videos, and no, no,
Well, and
I'm
other
sure we
stuff.
did too.
Tell me about the love affair between you and the bromance between you and NSYNC.
The bromance. You know what, George? We all know that I got pigeonholed into that genre,
Yeah,
and I didn't mind. I didn't
yeah,
mind. Listen, here was a band. These were artists that were making a lot of people happy around the world, and I'm all for that. If you're gonna put a smile on
yeah,
someone's face that's having a tough day in Japan or wherever they are, Bolivia, like
yeah.
more power for you to do that. They just happen to be a boy band, but
Right. Yeah.
you know, we all know that wasn't my go-to genre of
Hmm.
music genres. But
Right.
there's something I liked about these guys and the Backstreet Boys, and I don't know. I saw me in them, I think, and maybe they saw themselves and me in a way,
Yeah.
but we always had a nice connection with those guys. I always joked around with those guys, and bromance, yeah, sure. Chris invited me on the tour bus for a
Yeah.
tour or two, but I think that was around the time I was trying to keep my marriage together.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say yes to Chris. Maybe if
You're like just
Justin
enough
had
and good
asked
for
me.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
exactly,
ended up getting on the tour buses of all these like heavy metal bands, and it was a different experience for sure.
yeah.
It was a
George,
whole
I
other.
was on the tour bus for Slipknot down
Yeah.
in South Carolina. I'm sure you were on that same tour bus. It was nothing like the NSYNC tour bus. Let's just
No.
say. Yeah.
I always loved how deranged we got to be on Loud
Yes.
because the people
Yes.
who the bosses at Much never watched Loud. You know what I used to do, man? This is true
Yeah.
about the punk
Yeah.
show. I signed a camera out of Much Music. I didn't even sign it. I took it, right? And I'd leave the camera at my house. I'd walk down the street and I would film interviews with punk bands for the punk show. I
Yeah.
would hand the
Yeah.
camera to some kid who was at this show and say, "Hey, you film it." I'd interview a band. I'd go home. I didn't even know how to edit video, but I downloaded a cracked copy of an editing software. I would edit it
Yeah.
together on my couch. I would take the video
Gee.
to Much Music. I worked with an editor called Dr. Emberley. Doc would remember he used to always wear a lab coat, and
Michael. Yeah.
Michael, yeah, and Michael would put videos on, put the name keys on, and then he would
Wow.
output it. I would take the tape. I would walk downstairs and I would hand the video into the player. The VTR operator would put it in and press play, and that's when the punk show would go to air. Much never saw
That's
anything I
what
ever did.
that went to air. That stuff that you just
That's
created.
how the show
That's
would go to air. I
I
would
didn't
take
know
the
that
show.
information.
Yeah, I would just take the show. Like nobody ever saw the show that we were doing, and we just kind of it was super raw. I mean, the reason because David Kind said, "What do you want to call it?" I
Super
said,
raw.
"Call it the Punk Show." It's like, why? Because let's not have a fancy name. Just call it Punk Show. Just be punk, man. He's like, all right, cool, let's do it. They kind
And
of
it was
let us.
shot so punk, which I just learned from you right now. It was
Because it
shot
was
so
this. It
punk
was
and
just
raw.
me doing
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you know. you know, did you ever have
I never knew that.
the crazy experience? Like you were telling me your Pearl Jam story. The first time I met Eddie Vedder, I love Eddie Vedder, as you know, and first time I met him, so that girl that I was dating, that woman I was dating, dumped me, and I was heartbroken,
A mess. Yeah.
a mess. And I remember being at Much, and I could not find the smile, and I'd have to go on camera and do the smile, but I couldn't find the smile. Um, and I
Oh yeah.
remember
Tough.
a buddy of ours who Jeremy from Our Lady Peace, who was also in Vegas, by the way, for that Vegas episode. And I think Jeremy might have been recently single too.
Mm.
So Jeremy calls me and
Hence
he said,
why he was in Las Vegas. Yeah.
that's why he's in Las Vegas. But he calls me because he knew I was really heartbroken. And
Yeah.
he said to me, "Hey, OLP's making a record in Vancouver. You got to get out of the city. Come hang out with me for a week." So I said, "No
Oh
problem."
wow.
So it was a
Yeah.
real fucking bro thing to do, right? Really good thing. So I flew out to Vancouver and we're there having a great time. I have lifelong friends. I'm still friends with people from that trip, right?
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
horseback riding with Katie Rocks, who was in the band Jackalope. Jackalope,
Yes.
she was
Yes.
working
Yes.
at the studio. I met her, so we're still lifelong friends.
Oh.
And Jeremy's like, "Hey, do you want to drive down to Seattle?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we get in a car. He's like, "My buddy, a drum tech who I know, is working on a record there. Let's go down." I don't remember him telling me what we were going to go see. Pearl Jam was making a record at the Heart's Bad Animal Studio. So we
What?
drive to Seattle, we
Oh.
get in, and I walk in, and there's Pearl Jam. It's like,
There's
it's
Pearl Jam.
crazy.
Oh wow.
Now, I hadn't seen Eddie. I didn't see Eddie at the time. I just walked in, see Stone, I see Mike. Oh my God, Matt Cameron was the drummer. And of course, I love Soundgarden. And, and I knew I was a big Mother Love Bone fan. So you see Stone, you're like, oh, Mike, oh my God, Jeff's there.
Ah.
I don't see Eddie.
Wow.
So it's like, all right, they're cutting vocals, whatever. I was kind of in awe of Pearl Jam in this moment. And I said, I got to use the restroom. He's like, oh, yeah, it's just around the corner. And it's one of those, you swinging door, you open the door, you restaurant, the bathroom, kind of like in a high school where you walk in when you're in high school and there's like 5 or 6, whatever. So I open the door and I walk in. There's not 5 or 6. There's one toilet.
Okay.
And Eddie is sitting on it.
So you met Eddie Vedder, legend, my hero, your
On
hero,
the toilet.
on the throne doing
He was
doing
reading a
his thing.
magazine, I'm assuming, his pants were,
Oh,
he
the
was
thinking man.
he
Yeah.
was working.
Yeah.
He was working. He was doing the job. And I walked in and I remember just going, I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, it's okay, man. And that's the first time I heard Eddie's voice in person, right? It's okay, man. And I just walk out of there and my face lost all the color in my face. I just went, oh no, oh shit. I'm gonna.
That's
So
that's
I
funny,
said,
man.
to Taggart, we're gonna get thrown out of here, bro. I didn't mean to. He's like, it's fine.
No,
So
but
Eddie
Eddie
comes
Vedder,
out.
he's so down to earth too. It's
Yeah,
normal, every day. Could be your best friend.
totally. Catering's
Yeah.
happening. We have a sandwich. Eddie grabs a sandwich just right beside me, and I look at him and I went, "Yo, dude, I'm so sorry." He goes, "Totally fine, no problem."
Yeah.
And then we had this really lovely conversation. That's the first
That's a
time I met
great
Eddie
story
Vedder.
about Eddie, man. That's a great story. Most people it would be an awkward situation. They wouldn't want to see
Yeah,
you again, or every time they did, they feel a certain way. I remember listening to a show when I was a teenager, well, maybe late teens. I'm sure you listened to it too. They used to air it on the Edge. It was a live show that they would do with bands. I don't know if it was
yep.
called Rockline or whatever it
Rockline,
was.
yeah, yep,
Rockline. Eddie was on that night, and I remember Eddie kept wanting to. This is how cool this guy is, and you know him personally.
yeah.
He never wanted to stop that conversation with the fans, the people that were calling in from all across the world, all around the world. I don't know if you remember this. The last segment of the show, Eddie says, "Listen, I know I'm not going to be able to get to everyone or answer everyone's questions. If you have a question, give me a call on my landline at home. I'll answer your question. I took down his number so fast. And to this day, I still have Eddie Vedder's phone number somewhere. but
Did,
but that's the type of guy this dude is, man. I never
did you?
called him because
I
but
come
he
on, you
gave
gotta
out
call
his. I still
I
have the number in my book somewhere. I'm sure I'll call him one of these days. But
yeah,
that's just the type of guy he is. He's a special artist.
oh, he really is. He
Special
really is.
artist.
It's iconic what obviously what they did, and I've been listening a lot to Footsteps
Oh,
from Pearl Jam because he played it on one of those radio specials he did back in the day, and I was thinking about how lucky we were and are to still have him. You know, we just passed the 30th last year of the passing of Kurt, and you know we're years into the loss of Lane Staley, um,
mm.
MCA, Chris Cornell. Do you remember one? You and I have both interviewed so many people who are no longer here.
Yeah,
Do you remember
I do
which one
remember
broke you?
one. There
Which
were a
one?
lot, man, in time that you're fans of these people. You buy their albums. You grew up loving them and listening to them. Then, as you know, we get to interview them at
Yeah.
Much Music. Well, I was the one of the biggest in excess fans out there,
Oh yeah.
and Michael Hutchence. I remember chatting with a few times, and the last time I chatted with him, just a few months later, Michael Hutchins was no longer with us.
Yeah.
So man, that guy, what he did for me in the '80s, because '80s was my decade, man. I was
Yeah.
prime. I was in 1980. I was 10. In '89, I was 19. That decade,
Oh
George, what it did for me in terms of music, and Michael was a big part of it. And so young to lose such a talent like him, but
yeah.
that dude was the coolest, man.
What was your favorite NXS song?
Oh man, I think anything from Kick. When they
Yeah.
released Kick, you could choose any song on there. You got the slow, nice ballads, Never Tear Us Apart. You've got
Oh
New Sensation. You got all sorts, and I was deep into In Excess, man. Oh, with that album, and then all the albums I gave, and those were pinch me moments. And I'm sure you've
yep.
experienced them too, but you're more professional than I am.
No, not
Like
always.
I'm interviewing Michael Hutchins
Yeah.
from In Excess. The whole band is here. They're gonna play some songs live, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna go hang out after. He brought his little daughter in that day and his wife, and it was like, this is not happening to me, man. But you always had to keep your composure.
Yeah.
And sure, I did show my fanboy side at times. How could you not?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. For sure.
hopefully
For me, it
that's.
was Joe Strummer. When I interviewed Joe Strummer, and
Oh
we
yeah,
lost
yeah.
him, the Clash. I mean, I have a Clash tattoo. Like, I mean, I
Yeah, you do.
that
You're a
one
big Clash guy. Yeah,
really hit me.
yeah,
You know, also with Scott Weiland, because I'd interviewed
oh
Scott
Scott.
Weiland at every stage of his journey when he was before he
Yeah.
started to use, as it got worse, better, worse, better, worse, better. And he was at my house and he played a concert, played a show in my living room, maybe 7 months
uh,
before, maybe 5 months before he passed away. And I remember seeing him at my house that last time. It was weird. I was out sweeping the front yard. I'm at that age. I'm sweeping like the walkway, and in my front end of my gate, my door, the gate rings, and I look up and it's Scott Weiland.
Go
And
on.
he's like, hey man, can you shower? I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Um,
Because he slept on the tour bus. So he came in, but he was in trouble. You could tell that he
yeah,
was in
yeah,
really, really big trouble. Um, the Michael Hutchins thing was, I reported that on radio. I was at the Edge at the time. I got a call
yeah.
from somebody in the hotel in saying, hey, this hasn't, again, pre-internet really. He said, hey,
Right,
this
right.
hasn't, the internet existed,
The
but
hotel
not
where
like
it
that.
happened.
Yeah.
Someone
I
called you from. Wow.
I got a call because somebody, I was doing the all request breakfast, and it was 872 Edge. It was the same phone number it's been forever. And it was a Canadian person working in the hotel room who called me
Okay.
and said, hey, dude,
Wow.
this is not public yet, but Michael Hutchins is dead. And I remember going,
Wow.
what? And he's like, yeah. And I couldn't go to air with it right away because I couldn't confirm it. Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I,
Right. You
I
don't. You don't
remember,
want to be the one that's giving that information out there if
yeah,
it's incorrect. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. So I
Oh,
got on the phone, I made a bunch of calls, and I could found a way to sort of
awesome.
loosely confirm it, and then I went to air with it. It was a heartbreak. Don't Change was the song for me. Like that still is one of the best songs.
Great song.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that I love so much. Um,
Great song.
but
Jake.
how
Oh,
privileged are we?
beautiful
How
man.
lucky are we that we're a part of some of these really amazing Like they're on their journey helped help people find the power of their music.
Yeah, yeah. I never take any of those seconds, those minutes for granted. I was so, we were honored to be in
Yeah,
that position that we were in, and we knew, most of
yeah,
Canada would have loved to have been in our shoes to
yeah,
experience those moments, and I'm so grateful for every opportunity to this day.
yeah.
Lots
Same.
of love for Much and what they did for me, and how they treated me, and what they allowed us to do. Uh, on air live. It was a
It was
special
something.
time, magical time.
The live thing, man. That's the thing. The no teleprompter live thing was amazing. And did you ever get into a fight? Did you ever get thrown? I got thrown out of a few interviews. Did you ever have an interview go
I know
really
you
hor
did. I
Oh,
saw them.
yeah, a couple, a couple. I got thrown out of the Sebastian Bach one and the Eminem press conference within a week of each other. But I got thrown out of the Sebastian Bach one, and I I remember
Yeah, he
getting
dropped his mic and threw it at you and just
yeah,
walked
yeah,
out. Like,
get out, and you got thrown out onto Broadway. It was like traffic, and it was really crazy. By the way, he and I are friends, and we've since made it's all good.
oh,
Baz is
sure.
great, totally.
It was
But
all a show,
he
right, back then?
So I get tossed, and I come back to Much, and I'm new at Much. I hadn't been there for very long, and I remember thinking, "Oh God, I'm going to get maybe I'm going to get fired." I walked in, and Denise Donlin put her arms around me, and she says, "Now you're a journalist." And then a week later, I get thrown out of the interview from Eminem and Dre, but I thought I asked the right question. I got like physically removed from the interview,
You
and
did. You
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah. Security guard right on my arm and just fucking pushed me out. And I remember looking at all these
That's
malakas in the record industry in Canada, some of whom are my friends, but I looked at them all going, nobody's gonna say anything. Nobody's gonna say anything. I'm getting whatever. So
no.
I get back to Much Music, and Denise looks at me and she said, "You asked the right question." She gave me a big hug and she said, "Now let's try not to get thrown out of every interview." That's what she said to me. Did you ever get into a fight? Because do you know I got hired for a
George,
fight?
I always wanted to make the artists happy, make them
Yeah.
comfortable so they can give me more. I wasn't there to piss them off.
Right.
But the difference between you asked the questions you asked the questions that were on the minds of Much Music viewers from coast to coast, and you went there. God bless you for going there. I went there here and there, and sometimes
Yeah.
maybe I blitzkrieged it and went,
Yeah.
at it in a different angle
Yeah.
than you. But you went there, and no wonder Denise loved you so much about that. That's the way Denise Donlin was.
I had to
She
learn though.
led the
Thank
way.
you. I had to
Yeah,
learn though
yeah,
that the art is actually. I realized how quickly how easy it is to be that guy, and I didn't want that because I wanted the interviews to keep going. So I had to learn the art was ask the difficult questions, but in a way that the conversation keeps on going,
in
and
a
that has
nice
been
way.
the
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
been the craft that I've been working on
yeah,
my whole
yeah,
life is getting real stuff out, but kind of going around on it. But remember, I got hired.
yeah,
So I don't know if you know
yeah.
this, but when I got hired, uh, it was they wanted me to interview somebody who was a real dick, and they wanted they said this to me. We think this could end up in a fight, and we think
Okay.
that we think you can fight this person if it does. And
Okay,
I
so hold on.
yeah.
Let me try to think. Just give me a minute, and people can try to guess too who are watching this.
So I won't tell you, but I they flew me to LA, and this
Yeah.
guy made me wait for 8, 9 hours. He walks
What?
in 3 or 4 hours late. He sees me and he says, "I know why you're here." And I said, "All right." He said, "How's this gonna go?" And I said, "Well, I guess that depends on you, man." And he kept recording his record. He kept other people kept coming in. Exhibit came in to lay a track down with him. Balthazar Getty, the actor, walked in. And then later
Yeah.
that night, he tells me what a big fan he is of Eddie Vedder's lyrics in Pearl Jam, going back to Eddie. Many roads lead back to Eddie. And it
Yeah.
occurred to me
Yeah.
that this guy had writer's block. So I said to him, "Do you have writer's block?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Can I play you a song?" And I said, "Yep." And he played me his song that didn't have any words. It only had a chorus.
Just
And
instrumental, or yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was just like the noise, the music. and then the chorus. But the chorus
And
had
the
to go.
chorus. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I
Okay.
remember now we were pushing each other a little bit, but we were two, guys in our late 20s who were just not having each other's bullshit. So, and I think we both knew that we wanted the interview to continue. So it kept going. And he was actually quite nice to me in the end. And he played me the chorus and he goes, "What do you think?" And I said to him, "It doesn't matter what the lyrics are. It doesn't matter what the lyrics are because that chorus
But
is a smash." And he's like, "You think so?" I went, "Bro, everybody thinks so. Whoever heard it."
is his last name Gallagher?
No, I always had good time.
No.
But Gallagher's why I got the job at Much.
Okay.
I
Okay.
interviewed.
Hold that story. But so who is this artist? I'm trying to figure this artist out because I don't think I know this story. Who was it?
Well, you want me to tell you what the chorus was?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that.
All it was, bomb, chicka, chicka, bomb, bomb, chicka, bomb, keep rolling, 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 rolling. What? Keep rolling,
Fred
rolling, roll.
Durst.
It was Fred Durst.
Fred
It
Durst.
was Fred
Limp
Durst.
Bizkit.
And I heard the rolling chorus when it was still in the studio.
Heavy man. Heavy. Heavy.
It was
Heavy.
really well produced. So I was working in it was
Wow.
amazing, but we didn't get into a fight. So the interview continued, and that was the good sign that I wasn't going to get thrown out of everything. But I was there with permission to fight
To drop the gloves and go at
if it
it
came
if
up.
need
If it
be.
came up.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a good scrap, you and Fred Durst.
Oh,
Oh,
dude. Yeah, I
let's go
I don't
back
know
in
who would have
time.
won. Now, luckily, I'm a man with peace in my heart now, but this is how it started. But what happened was I was working at the Edge, and I had interviewed Noel Gallagher,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what David Kynes saw. And I had asked a question to Noel.
yeah.
So then I get hired at Much, and then the first live interview I do is I think Super Furry Animals. No, that was taped. First live one I do is Noel Gallagher, same run. So I asked Noel a question, and I have no notes. I have no notes, nothing written down. I just walked into the interview and I just did it live on TV. And at the end of the
Yeah,
interview,
yeah.
David Kynes still wasn't sure what kind of VJ I was going to be. And he walks up to me and he said, "Do you have any notes?" And I said, "No."
Wow. Even
And
back then,
he's,
it was all up in your head, eh?
well, yeah, but particularly for
Yeah,
Oasis. I said, if I can't interview
yeah.
Oasis, like me, I love this
Right.
band. But the question
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
asked Noel was, do you ever, because you wrote Wonderwall for your lady at the time, do you ever wish you sang it? Because it's become this iconic, beautiful love song. Do you ever wish
That Liam
you
sings.
sang it?
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
said to me, "Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I do." And then he pauses and he goes, "But the kid did a pretty good job," right? Talking about Liam and away you go. So that's how
And
I got.
sometimes when Liam doesn't show up for the show, he does sing
He
Wonderwall, I'm
does sing
sure,
it. He does for
at the
sure.
shows.
Oh my God. That's
And that's how you got the gig.
that's how
David
I got the
Kynes
gig.
listening to that. I only had the opportunity to interview Noel once. It was Rock in Rio, and he had just gotten off a flight, and he was tanked to the T's.
Yeah.
And, and it's like, okay, what am I going to get out of Noel Gallagher? But you get a lot of good stuff out of Noel Gallagher. I think the pop groups were going on the
Yeah.
night that he arrived, like
Yeah.
Britney and NSYNC and all those bands were at Rock in Rio. It's ironic, right? Rock in Rio, you got pop acts.
Yeah.
But anyway, but Noel just through the whole interview, Britney Spears is on this bill. What's Britney's Iron Maiden's here? Neil Young is here. Metallica are here. Sepultura are here.
Yeah.
Britney Spears is here. He just kept going on and on about Britney.
He was
Oh well,
relentless. He was relentless back then.
love that guy. Love that guy.
He's
And I
he
can't
still
wait to
get.
see him
Are
this
you gonna
this
go?
summer.
Are you
Oh
gonna go?
yeah,
Yeah.
I got
I
two
never go.
tickets. I promised one for Bill Welichka because Bill's a big fan as well.
I wanted to talk to you about Bill because you interviewed Bill too, right? You talked to Bill. Bill's got a movie coming out.
Bill has a movie coming out called Still Alive in Kingston. It's going to be at the Kingston Film Festival in March. I think it's March 2nd is the big premiere date for Bill's movie at noon. I wish I could go. It's my wife's birthday weekend, and
Right.
her hope she's not listening to this. Her friends are taking her away for a surprise getaway.
Oh my
So I'm
God.
going to be with the boys.
Oh, you're
But
so
Bill wrote a book. Bill made a movie.
yeah,
Bill's back.
dude.
That's the
Bill
hashtag.
Welichka.
Bill's back.
I like that.
Love
Bill
Bill.
is such a great interviewer. And I
Oh,
remember
George, so
watching
good.
him interview Johnny Cash and so many other legends.
Garth
Bill,
Brooks. Oh,
yeah,
dude.
Bill
Oasis. Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
great interviewer.
Right.
I love that. Seeing the pictures of you and him.
You and Bill. You and Bill are up here.
No.
No one can come close to you and Bill. Yeah.
No.
I'm
We
way
stood
down
on
here.
as the Oasis album was called, "Standing on the Shoulder of Giants." We stood on the shoulder of giants, and then other giants stand on the shoulder of us. That's always been the case. It's always been the case. Dude, I love you. I want to do this again with you.
Yeah, man, for sure.
I
Lots more
do.
stories to tell.
We
And
have
I want to get the people involved more too. I'm sure.
well, yeah. Next time we'll actually, yeah. Next time we can probably do that. I mean, it's just me, but
We could do it in advance too. Get some questions out and talk to the people.
yeah.
Could we have them join us live, like a
I
video
think
of
so.
them,
Yeah,
like remember the old Speakers Corner,
we just have people send us
Speakers on
video.
the Road.
People can send us video messages.
Yeah,
Um,
man. Or do
do
live. Could we do live stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure we can.
We can make
I'm
that
sure we
happen,
can.
right?
All I do is I just sit here and I learn. I love to build studios. So I built the
Technology.
studio and I
Yeah,
love learning
yeah.
how to do this kind of stuff and work comments in and
So
all this
figure
stuff.
that out, will you?
Yeah, but we should get Bill on too. I don't want to get Rachel on. I love Rachel so much, man.
Yeah.
She's great. And Nam has gone
Let's
on
do
to
this
build
again
amazing.
together, and we'll bring guests on with us
Yeah,
to
but let's
talk
not
to
wait
them and
so
ask them
long
questions.
next time. Like let's do it soon because I think there's some million things we still need to talk about.
Tons of
You
stuff
know.
still. Tons of stuff. I look
Um,
forward to part 2.
Anybody watching this, thank you for being on this and sending all these comments. We're only able to catch a handful of them, but we'll catch more as this goes on. And then share it with your friends and tell them to subscribe to the channel. But just watch this. You have
Share it with your friends and tell them your boyfriend George Stroumboulopoulos had his buddy Rick Campanelli on. It was a great couple hours.
your boyfriend George has the Canadian Idol. The real Canadian Idol. By the way, when I say that, no disrespect to Ben Mulroney. Ben Mulroney was an amazing host. Amazing,
Oh, of
amazing
course,
host.
of
So when I
course, of course, Ben.
but above and beyond the show, you are the real Canadian Idol. I mean, I don't like the ball cap you're wearing, but aside from that,
Come on, man. Angels over Devils any day for me.
hey, listen, I hosted the countdown to New Year's Eve show on CHCH this year. You hosted it last year.
Oh yeah, George. How did that go?
I loved it. I loved that crew, and
Yeah,
so they reached out to me to
right.
do it, and I didn't want to do it. And then they said Rick can't do
Of
it.
course you didn't.
I didn't want to do it. And they said, Rick can't do it. And I went, oh, okay. But I met them on Zoom. I loved the producers, Sabrina and Maddie.
Great, right? Great.
But then I went, you know what? Rick did this. I want to do it. I want it. So
Ah.
both have it. So now there's a New Year's Eve
Now I
countdown
want to do
show.
the next one. Since you
Well,
did
let's
this
do it
one, I want to do
together.
the.
Let's do the next
Oh,
one.
that's a great idea. Let's do that. But the bands that you had on, the artists that you had on this year, so good, man. So
Oh,
good.
I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, I
Um,
totally forgot you did that.
it was super fun, man. It was super fun. And I hadn't done live television. In my entire career, been lucky to do a lot of things, new music, my own talk show, even Hockey Night in Canada, but I'd never hosted a TV New Year's Eve show.
Okay.
That was my first time, and it was really fun, man. I really liked
I'm
it.
gonna start calling you Dick Clark.
If we take that Dick Clark
You're
paycheck,
Canada's Dick Clark, right? Yeah.
why don't you and I, with them, create a syndicated across the country show? We'll get every network. Maddie and Sabrina, they're probably not going to see this, but if they do, let's do that.
Well, listen, because when you were doing your show for CH, I was doing a show for Rogers on
Right.
City TV. So I'm not sure if it's like the Hatfields and McCoys, but
But
I'm
bro,
sure we can. It's
a
one
year
love.
from now. It's a year from
It's
now.
one
Who
love.
knows? Who
It's
knows
true.
what's going to be happening in a year from now?
That's right. How fickle this industry is. Who knows? Right? It's true. Okay.
No, totally.
All right.
I think Nancy sums it up beautifully by saying, "Night, guys. This has been God. This has been a real treat for me. You know that
Me too, man.
I love broadcasting live, and I love doing this. And but Makowitz and Tanya and I have talked time and time again. It's like, you gotta do this with Rick.
Oh man.
Because our vibe
A lot of
is.
warm fuzzies right in my heart right about now. I appreciate that. I loved every minute of this too.
No, me too. And we'll do it again soon. Much love to you. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm about to leave. One of my favorite bands from we used to interview at Much Music is a Scottish band called Travis. They won the best UK act many times in England. I love Travis. Travis are playing downtown LA tonight. So I'm going to hop in my El Camino and I'm going to drive downtown to go see Travis. I can't wait to see. I'm all by myself, and I'm just going to stand there and watch Travis, and I'm going to cry at every song. It's going to be the best.
George, have the best time, man. I wish I was with you in LA right now because I would accompany you to see Travis. That's
Next
awesome.
time,
That's awesome.
we'll go it again one more time. We'll make another show.
For sure we will, man.
Love you,
George,
dude, man.
I had a ton of fun, man.
Me
Lots of
too.
love for you always. You're a
I'll
good
see you
man,
soon.
Charlie Brown.
Be
Thanks,
good, brother.
George.
Thank you, man.
You too, my man. Thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Amazing. Rick is the best. That was so
George, that was a lot of fun, man.
Oh, you kidding me, man? You kidding? All right.
I'm sorry I lost my focus at first.
No,
I dropped my
you did
tea
it.
over
Hold on.
my
We're still
son's...
live. Let me just shut this off
Oh,
for a second.
oh.
Because I don't know what we're going to say next. It'll be the after show. Let me
Yeah.
see now. All right.
Peach
Dude,
Pit After Dark.
We did almost 2 hours or 1:49. Okay, hold on. I can finish. Thanks for watching, everybody. Watch another video. I'll probably link another video. My top 10 songs that I love. They're on. There's a video. There's an artist called Gray and an artist called Housewife you need to hear. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Okay. Rick, don't go anywhere. Okay.
I'm right here.